Hello, everyone, and welcome to Really Old Movies. I'm your host, Harrison Skolin, and today I'll be discussing the Battle of the Bulge from 1965. So, now let me show you the critic list description. In the winter of 1944, the Allied armies stand ready to invade Germany at the coming of a new year. To prevent it, Hitler orders an all out offensive to retake French territory and capture the major port city of Antwerp. Alright, so now let me show you that was the plot description. Now let me show you my thoughts. So the plot, I'll be honest, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I actually enjoyed it. I love seeing the different aspects of the battle. You know, the German panzers and tigers versus the US Sherman and the Grenadier brigades and whatnot. All that was great. I just wish there was more of a central character to follow, more of a main character. I think that's supposed to be Henry Fonda, though it's not super clear because we also follow Robert Shaw's character a lot more as well. Um, a good comparison for a modern film, probably like Lord of the Rings, where like Frodo, he's pretty much the main character, but we jump around a lot. I just felt Henry Fonda's didn't really feel like that, if that makes sense. But other than that, I thought the story was interesting, and I had a good time with it. 4 out of 5. All right, the acting. So 4 out of 5 as well. I thought Robert Shaw did fantastic. I thought Dana Andrews, Charles Bronson, and Robert Ryan were also really good. I actually think Henry Fonda is the weakest link. So maybe it is a good thing he wasn't the main character. But I just don't think his style of acting fit with everybody else's. They all seemed much more serious, and he seemed a little more old timey, even though some of them are old time actors. It just didn't fit with the kind of gritty and seriousness of the movie, if that makes sense. So 4 out of 5. All right, the set design, 5 out of 5. I thought it was great. The tanks and the outdoor scenes looked incredible. I was very impressed with it, even if they're not exactly the tanks that were actually in the war. It was still really cool seeing the ideas and the designs that they had for them, for sure. 5 out of 5. All right, cinematography, 4 out of 5. I thought the scenes on the battlefield looked great, though I do think some of the rear projection looked really, really bad, and even for 1965, they looked really bad. I think they could have done much, much better. Especially, there's this one scene in particular where Robert Shaw comes out of his tank, and it's very obvious that behind him is a projector. It did not look good at all. I think they could have spent more time fixing that up. Post production, maybe, not sure, but overall, 4 out of 5. Looked really, really good. All right, the music, gonna give it a 3. I thought it looked pretty generic. There's nothing super special or spectacular about it, and nothing that really stood out to me. All right, so overall, my score is a 4 out of 5, which is an 80%. So now let me break down my critical score. Graphic language, just some minor language, nothing super offensive, anything like that. Violence, there's obviously this is a war movie, so there's some battles and death and whatnot, but no gruesome blood or anything like that. It's very tame. Nudity, sexual content, really, there's a character who she's probably a prostitute, not entirely sure, but this is mostly a war movie. All right, political bias, none. Family friendly, I would say it was very family friendly, although it's almost 3 hours. Keep that in mind. So that also goes into my entertainment value. I thought for the most part it was very entertaining, especially in the battle scenes. I do think some of the middle part of it kind of drags out a bit. Some scenes could have been cut for sure. I don't think it needed to be as long as it was. All right, so overall, would I recommend this movie? Yes. I would consider this similar to like Gettysburg from 1993, where we see both sides of the conflict. Although in this particular case, they're not trying to show the Nazis as sympathetic, more so just what they were doing during the Battle of the Bulge. Um, and I also thought it was similar that, the last offensive that Germany did, that's what the Battle of the Bulge was, that kind of turned the tide of the war. Um, I think Gettysburg, as a modern film, is probably a better comparison. What I do find interesting, so they don't have Dwight D. Eisenhower or any other real leaders in this movie, like actors playing these real characters, or real people, rather. In fact, uh, he wasn't president at the time. He had already served his term, but Eisenhower panned this movie, and a lot of people of the time also panned it because it's nothing like what actually happened. A majority of the Battle of the Bulge was in the snow, very cold, all that, and very foresty and whatnot. We only get like one scene that kind of looks like that. The rest is just dry and looks like maybe deserty or whatnot. That is not how the battle looked. And like I said, they didn't have any real historical figures in it. All these were made up for this film. And if I remember correctly, it's because at the time the U.S. Department of War was trying to create a um, another film about the Battle of the Bulge at the same time. So they given a lot of resources and permission from real people for that, and they didn't for this one. So I thought that was a pretty fascinating tidbit there. Um, I get for dramatic reasons why you would want to change some historical things. That happens a lot. But there were a lot. There's on the Wikipedia page for this movie, they have like a whole section dedicated to all the inaccuracies, and it's pretty wild how inaccurate it is. But overall, as a story with characters, drama, and whatnot, I thought it did very well. I would recommend it as a movie, not as a historical drama per se. Um, I had a good time with it, and if anything, it sparked my curiosity to learn even more about this battle. I don't know a whole lot about it. When it comes to World War II, I study more like the Pacific Theater, that kind of thing. So I'm curious more about this side of it. Um, but I have a basic idea. Now I just need to see a documentary or read a book to kind of fill in the gaps for sure. But, anyways, those are my thoughts on the Battle of the Bulge from 1965, and that concludes today's movie review.